This is the CreaseCast.
Welcome to another episode of the CreaseCast. I am your host, Cody Severton. With me, as always, Lachlan Irvine. Lachlan, since we last recorded, or I should say, since we started recording this podcast together, we've seen the U.S. Capitol get invaded by mega nut jobs. 5 NHL teams, training camps get delayed due to COVID outbreaks, and then one team having their season outright delayed because of COVID. Is it safe to say that our podcast is bringing bad luck to hockey?
I can neither confirm nor deny those claims. We're looking into it, I assure you, and we'll have an answer for you as soon as we can.
Yeah. We're so sorry, folks.
Our official stance is no comment.
Yeah, that's fair.
Man, it has been very bad though. Holy.
I was.
And it just
at work
got
today.
worse today.
Yeah. So we were saying in the last episode that we were sorry for things being kind of miserable and kind of a dour and upsetting. Well, we're here to triple down on that because we actually had some pretty, standard hockey topics lined up. We were going to talk about the Barzal signing,
Finally,
Evander Kane's money troubles, Jeff Skinner's placement on the Buffalo Sabres roster.
It is weird how we're almost I don't want to say fishing for topics, but kind of killing time until we found out what was going to happen with the Canucks, and then a whole lot happened with the Canucks in a very short amount of time.
We had a bunch of very standard hockey podcast topics that everyone was talking about as we waited for news of the starting roster and the taxi squad roster. And then literally an hour building up until we started recording, it was like all of the bombshells were dropping at once. Starting with the big one.
So many things.
The worst news of all, the Vancouver Canucks sent Jonah Gadjevich, Jet Wu, Cole Josh Tevis, and Will Lockwood down to the AHL.
Oh, no. Yes, that is the worst thing that happened today. Don't look it up.
I was devastated.
Do not Google the Canucks right now. That's it.
That's it
for sure.
Don't look up any roster news. But no, for serious though, the actual bad news of today was JT Miller and Jordie Benn will be out for a minimum of a few weeks as they go through COVID-19 quarantine protocol. This is obviously massive news, especially on a day when the Canucks are confirming their starting roster to be cap compliant and heading into their first game in months.
Since September 3rd, 4th, around there.
Yeah,
that was when they lost to the Golden Knights Game 7. That was about there.
Yeah. Side note.
Today,
I was so drunk for that game.
I don't remember if I was. I think I had to do. Just a little bit, just a very brief insight into my life. I'm ADHD. So I take ADHD medication, specifically when I do stuff like the show or when I'm writing. And when I do that, obviously you cannot drink it, I don't know if that's official, but it's very much you could really damage or do bad things could happen, right? If you take mixed medication and alcohol in any sort of case.
Right.
So I always have to make the choice. And I think that night I made the choice of I'm going to be doing some stuff regardless of how this game turns out. So I took my medication. And then as the game wore on, I'm like, I could really use a drink right now. And frankly, again, same thing tonight right now. Yes, it's a Tuesday. Again, obviously, podcast work is happening right now, so I'm very much in my ADHD space right now. And I could really go for a stiff drink right now.
Could you go for a Miller Lite?
Oh, you're fired. Get out of here. You are absolutely fired for that. But today was, that would be a fun joke to make on a normal day. This was supposed to be a fun day. This was supposed to be talking about the Canucks season starting tomorrow, or I guess today when you're listening to this. Canucks playing the Oilers, Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers, back 2 games on a back-to-back in Edmonton to start the season. This was supposed to be a happy occasion, and it is. It more and more feels like it's not, and we almost shouldn't be having these conversations, but we're going to anyway because we have to. This is our job. This is what we do. It's just so shitty that we're starting the year on this foot where JT Miller and Jordie Benn are both out of the lineup with COVID related issues. I mean, they haven't specifically said that they're sick. Their official stance, I think, was that they are.
They had a false positive on one of them, and so because they tested with a false positive, they had to do more testing, basically do the 4 tests in 4 days and hopefully get 4 negative tests or consecutive negative tests. And instead it alternated, according to Richard Zussman on Twitter, that there was a false positive, a negative test, and then another false positive, and then another negative test.
And that was for one of the players, and then the other JT. We don't know which one is. We don't know which one, yeah. But basically, for like the general picture here, JT Miller was staying at Jordie Benn's house during the quarantine and everything. During everything that's been going on beforehand. So that's why they're both out.
Yeah.
So we don't know which one of them. We don't know which one of them is the one that tested positive, but because they were both in close contact with each other, they both have to go.
Yeah, and so the Canucks now are looking at a Jordie Benn-less Canucks, which is devastating.
Incredibly devastating.
And then, JT Miller too, I guess, they'll miss him a bit.
First line left wingers, they're a dime a dozen.
Yeah, you get those easily off of the waiver wire, right?
Yeah, I mean, Corey Perry was out there. And Loui Eriksson, but
yeah, we'll get to Loui Eriksson a little bit later, but yeah, the 2 weeks, that's in a normal season that could be like 4 games maybe on a regular 82 game season, and you miss 10% of the season. But in a 56 game truncated season, they could miss the first 6 or 7 games.
That's
just by missing.
That's almost like what? Like
that's like a quarter, 20% or something.
No, it's not that much. No, that's. Are you worse at math than I am?
I believe we had this discussion last
six
episode.
Out of 56.
What's that? I don't know.
That is not 20%. I can tell you that much. It's not, but it is. It's a decent chunk.
Okay, it's an eighth.
It's more.
If it's 7 games, it's an eighth. Okay, so
it's about 7 because theoretically it's
get off my butt.
Yeah, so I guess again, I have not been through the quarantine process. Well, at least in this particular case where I'm not traveling, so there's not a set date. I guess it started on the first day of the first positive, right? Like that would be or is that the most recent positive? I guess it's the most recent.
Yeah, I think so. I have no idea how it works, really.
Because again, most of the time you would know because there would be a very specific, a set date of they got COVID on this day. But we not only do we don't know because
of the false positive.
Right, the false positive means it could have been very recently. Yeah. I mean, but I am assuming it means that it's 2 weeks from your.
It would have to be from the most recent.
Well, I guess it would be your earliest positive test. Your earliest positive test. So
maybe
assuming that would have been so if we're looking at a four COVID test, the most recent one being the one that came negative, that would mean probably the Monday.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks from Monday, you're looking at missing 8. I guess maybe you'd be able to come in for the 25th, the game on the 25th against Ottawa. Yeah, that's set, and that's 7 games. That would be 7 games. That'd be 2 against the Oilers, 2 against the Flames, and then 3 against the Canadians. And possibly 1 against the Senators. Don't know if they'd be allowed to come in on the Monday of the 25th. But at the end of the day, it's a loss for the Canucks for sure. But I mean, I'm most concerned for the players, right? And I think you and I are in agreement on that. We're both
the CreaseCast stance on this is COVID bad. Take it seriously. Do everything you can to protect yourself and your family from this. Wear a mask, all that. Player safety first. Both Jordie Benn and JT Miller have very young kids. Jordie Benn had his daughter right on the onset of the playoff bubble. So their safety and health is, paramount here. So you hope that it's, it really is just a false positive and they are actually fine because health and safety is the most important here.
And all the stuff we've learned about COVID and everything in the last year. Boy, has it been a long year. It's obviously not one of those diseases that just once it's gone, it's gone. It can leave you with long-term effects, and you just hope for their sake, not only that they can come back and play a full season after this, but also that it doesn't affect their careers or their general well-being, their general everyday well-being. Because I mean, we've seen on a different level what stuff like, say, concussions can do to a person, long-term living effects at this in the NHL. COVID, I can only imagine, is just as bad. And
the scary thing is we don't really know either, right? Like there's so much gray area. It's a bit scarier. So.
It could be years before we really see what those long-term ramifications are. But we already know from the people from the doctors who've discussed people coming out with damaged lungs and damaged internal organs that it could be very costly. So you really hope for them for the best. And again, we have to talk about hockey today because it's what's going on and it's not stopping. But you almost wish you could. You didn't have to.
Yeah. So let's not look at the long-term effects of COVID-19 on Jordie Benn and JT Miller. Let's look at the short-term impacts of COVID-19 on JT Miller and Jordie Benn and what it does to the Vancouver Canucks top 9 and defensive situation. Now, realistically, Jordie Benn is like your 8th D. He wasn't going to probably slide.
He probably was not going to play. He probably wasn't going to start the season on the ice anyway. So
he'd probably be a scratch anyway. But JT Miller's absence will be known immediately. Like just looking at Cap Friendly right now, basically the option is you slide Jake Virtanen to his off wing with Pearson and Brock Besser, and Zach Mckeown comes off the bench and slides onto a fourth line with Gaudette and Roussell, and you have that third line checking of Sutter, Beagle, and Mott.
Right.
Which, they've run that kind of lineup in the past, but when your first 2 games are against 2 of the most dynamic offensive talents in the league, that's some pretty crap timing. So I don't know. How do you feel about like a JT Miller-less Pearson Virtanen line?
I mean, it's a huge loss from, a locker room standpoint. Miller supposedly is is great in the room and has been great for helping guys like Jake Virtanen. Specifically, has been one that's been talked about, has really gotten a lot from JT Miller's setting an example. But from an on-ice perspective, it's monumental. I mean, this is the Canucks' leading scorer last season, right? Like, I mean, yes, Elias Pettersson is their best player. There's no doubt about it. But JT Miller was the leading scorer for a reason because he clicked so well with Petey and Brock Besser for such long periods of time, as well as Tyler Toffoli for a shorter stretch. Jake is going to be most likely flipped over to his off wing to what he's normally playing, and this is a big moment for Jake. I mean, yes, Pearson and Besser to a somewhat smaller degree are both players who can kind of make the best out of other people. Like JT Miller had a career season when he last year. Like it wasn't like he was already.
It's not a coincidence, right?
Yeah, it wasn't like he was already scoring at that kind of a clip and then happened to be put alongside 2 of the best young talents in the NHL, and all of a sudden the points came.
Yeah.
It's the Pearson and Besser helped make JT Miller better, and vice versa.
Right.
this is a case where they're not going to be carrying Virtanen. He's obviously a guy who can play at this level, but they're not going to get the same level of help that they might normally do. It's going to be great for Jake to see what he can do when he's playing with these kinds of guys. And it's I don't want to say it's not like a must succeed situation necessarily. Especially again because he's going to be playing on his wing that he's not used to playing. Right. But you don't if Jake Virtanen comes into these next couple games and just looks lost and more importantly diminishes the potential offensive impact of what Pearson and Besser can do, that's not good. So you just hope that he can kind of stay above water with them a little bit. I mean, he has talent. He's shown it before. So, and I don't see why for a couple games he couldn't be able to make something click on that top line. It's just going to be a matter of can they get him the matchups that work the best, and and can he, and how well is he going to do in his own end of the ice? Because obviously that's the part where a part of Jake's game that he struggles with the most is can he. If he gets caught in a situation where Connor McDavid is coming down to his end, can he keep him from getting that shot? Can he keep him from getting that perfect shot away? That's
a big ask for Jake.
It's a big ask for anybody.
He's got the wheels, but that's like it's not throwing him to the wolves because what else are the Canucks gonna do? Are they gonna call up Loui Eriksson? And be like, hey, man, we need you to play on our top line after we just waived you because we got nothing else.
Yeah. I mean, he's on the taxi squad, so there's that. I mean,
we'll get to that a little bit. But just to wrap up on the whole, COVID positive test and the Virtanen thing. We kind of said it in the last episode, just like how the NHL was dancing on like a knife's edge, basically. Like just how much has to go right for this season to go off without a hitch. And it's 7:00 right now. So we are literally 24 hours away from the first game of the Canucks season. And we're getting those glimpses of this is how quickly things can change when something goes wrong. It's a bit scary. So I don't know about you. I'm kind of I'm fully prepared for a month-long shutdown, the worst. But
wow, really?
how do you feel about this NHL season right now? Where do you sit on the doomsday clock? Because I'm pretty close to midnight here.
I think the way they've set this season up, specifically how everybody's only playing at most 7 teams, in the Canucks case 6. Mm-hmm. And only traveling within a relatively small area. Yeah. I think I like to believe that once they get into the real meat of the season, that it will go off fine. That it'll go fine. There's no bubble, but I think the players know well enough that they can't be going out and partying in the middle of the city. They're not going to be out. There's frankly really no time really to
that's a huge about the schedule
to go have a night where you go out and party it up. Even if you're playing a game in Vegas, which the Canucks do not have to do. I think once they get into the actual season, the players will be almost in a pseudo bubble to a degree that it'll be fine once they get there. But this was going to be kind of the hardest part. This was the biggest hurdle, was how easily could you get everybody back without any illnesses coming through, and if so, what does that mean for your effect? What does that mean? Well, how does that affect your year? I mean, with Dallas, that was the one. I think Dallas was the one team I think they've mentioned by name as being sick because so many players got sick. And
they announced today that of the 12,000 tests that the NHL had done during training camps, the Dallas Stars were responsible for 17 of 27 positive tests.
Jeez, yeah.
And hey, Jordie Benn
postponed.
did come from Texas, so you have to wonder a little bit
living,
there.
Wasn't he in Vancouver? Was Jordie Benn not in Vancouver this
Well,
year? He lived in
his off-season home is in Texas. So like, for example, he's at training camp and his wife, brings the kid over later.
Or like, yeah.
Completely accusatory. This is all hypothetical. I am not.
Let's not get there. Let's not go there.
Yeah.
No
let's
get
into slanderous.
Yeah. Let's not point fingers anywhere. Well, you know what? If we're gonna point fingers at the state of Texas for just being a shit show. Because
how dare you?
They've done a swell job at spreading COVID. They've done them in Florida. Hats off to both of them.
How dare you do this to the Bens?
Yes,
the Beans.
How dare they?
How they
and the Stars now don't start until I believe the 19th or something.
Yeah, they get a 7-day delay to their season start.
Right. It's I think again this was going to be the toughest part was getting through this first bit where all the players are coming back from everywhere across the globe to get back to their cities. And in some cases the cities where there are a lot of COVID cases. Tampa obviously is one of them that's been talked about because they were going to have fans at their games and then that got nixed. That got nixed last week. So
pretty quick.
Yeah, very quick. So this is what it's gonna come down to. I like to believe that once they get into once the games start playing, if a team is healthy, they'll make it through. But we'll see. It's going and hope. I want to stay positive. I really do want to stay positive about it.
Your youth and positivity is showing, and I hate it. It's
your age and negativity is
my
showing.
age and negativity and misery is shining through. So let's try and bring me to your level a bit, and let's talk about something a bit more positive in a bizarre sense. But after 1,655 days, Loui Eriksson, the man himself, was finally placed on waivers by the Vancouver Canucks. He is designated for the Canucks taxi squad this year.
Now, let's be very clear here. We have not seen the last of Loui Eriksson in a Canucks jersey. He will play games. It's a matter of time. He will play games again.
Yeah.
I don't want to root for Loui Eriksson's demise here because I'm sure he's a nice guy. The players seem to really like him. I mean,
they love the way he eats pussy.
Oh man, for anyone who has not seen that picture, my parents I think listen. Hi mom, hi dad.
Oh yeah.
They there's like that picture of him with the hat or whatever, with like the bandana
that says "eat pussy" on it, which is
iconic,
amazing,
iconic.
That is what he's going to be remembered for. That and the empty netter goal that he scored against the Canucks in his first game.
If we want to say anything nice about Loui Eriksson, he's an unselfish lover.
Yeah,
That's
there you go.
That's good, and that is not nothing. That's a great human trait.
He's not Jamie Benn, who is the.
He is not Jamie Benn. I think that's why. I think Ben. Whenever I hear that specific discussion, Ben pops in because of Jamie.
I'm always thinking of
not.
I'm always thinking of Jamie Benn and how he doesn't go down on chicks. So yeah, it's always on my brain.
Oh man. I guess he's never coming on the show now. But
that's a shame.
Dang, I was gonna talk to him this week. But
so,
Loui, we kind of touched on the fact that where were you when the Canucks signed Loui Eriksson?
Yeah.
I was, and I remember very specifically where I was. I forget if I specifically said it. My girlfriend at the time and I were pet sitting for these these friends of ours in California at the time, and I remember getting up to take the dog. We're going out to take the dogs for a walk, and I looked at my phone oh wow, the Canucks got Loui Eriksson. Yeah. I don't know if that was. I think at the time I was kind of excited about it because
they just had their World Cup with the Sedins, where it was they were pretty decent together. So it was this is fun.
And the Canucks had just made the playoffs, so it was kind of like they could do something. There was some idea of they could maybe do something, and it was also that idea of that's a person I know that was good at one point. That's pretty cool. Almost in the way that we are with like who is like Travis Hamonic to a degree now, where he
used to be all right.
Not that he's been bad necessarily. He just was at one point like super. He had a rough year. He was super, but he was like really like highly.
Like when he left like the Islanders, it was like, oh my god, this guy is like available.
Yeah, and he only left the Islanders because of personal stuff going on in his life. He wanted to move back home. Like that was huge for a lot of people. It's like, oh my god, Travis Hamonic leaving. That's such a loss for the Islanders. And then with Loui Eriksson, it wasn't so much that with the Bruins, but it was this guy was. There was like 2008, 2009 was the guy who was like one of the most highly touted guys on like the Dallas Stars at one point. Yeah. And then I remember iconic very first game, very like I don't know if it was his first shift, but it was one of them.
It might as well have been just for the heel sake, right?
He tried to ice the puck down to his own end and on a delayed penalty and put it in his own net as Erik Goodbranson tried to chase it down. And I remember I think I tweeted even that night, like, oh god, this is what the Canucks, this was a microcosm of what the Canucks season is going to be, isn't it? This is what it is.
It was just like setting the tone for the entire season, like
and for
right
Loui
off the
Eriksson's
bat, for his contract,
tenure.
And then Goodbranson's deal too. It was just like, it basically summed up for Canucks fans what the pain was going to be for the next 3 years, basically until Goodbranson left and until better players came on board, right?
Yeah. I will never forgive Loui Eriksson for stealing Ryan Miller's shutout that night, because Ryan Miller stopped every single Calgary Flames shot in that game and would have had a shutout had Loui Eriksson not put that puck in his own net, even though the goal did not count against Ryan Miller. His save percentage was 1,000%. He got no shutout because of that, because they won in overtime 2-1.
What a load of crap.
I was so mad. I was so mad about that at the time. I was like, give Ryan Miller the damn shutout. Come on. Like, I know it totally doesn't count, but like...
Yeah. They would fault him for leaving,
save
right?
Percentage. Yeah.
It's your fault for leaving the net, idiot.
Yeah, and it's not your fault in a save percentage standpoint, but it's also still your fault. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think we all knew to a degree that the Loui Eriksson contract was not going to age well, but I don't think... But
at the very least, we all hoped it would be good.
No one at the time could have predicted just how badly it went. And I feel very bad. I feel bad for Loui that it went this way. But also, Canucks management tried over and over again to try and really just make this work somehow, some way, to the point where, last year he kind of got the hero's arc a little bit. He got the people's champ
a little bit
with the empty net stuff. Like I was getting on the bandwagon. Yeah, I was getting on the bandwagon a little bit. Like I would whenever. When it was like late in the game, I would throw on the Shrek 2 version of "I Need a Hero" when he was coming out on the ice for the empty net. I would throw that on my speaker, on my Bluetooth speaker. It was kind of fun for a little bit, but I think deep down we all knew that this was coming, and the concern was always just because of his cap, was he going to get in the way of better players coming into the lineup? And in some cases it was, but today it changed to the point where they're like, okay, it simply is not worth it anymore. And it's good that they're getting there, but it's still a hurt we're going to feel for a couple years, because that cap hit's not going away, regardless of whether he's playing or not. A little bit goes away, but not much.
A little bit, and I think there's still only, after this year, there's one more year left? Is it 2 more years after this?
This is year 5, 6 next, and that's it. And next year's year 6, and then it's
as we said in the last episode, like that was the longest 6 years of all time somehow. And it's like Rob Williams of the Daily Hive.
I saw that.
That was like
Rob. Happy birthday, goals. Rob! It's his birthday.
Happy birthday, bud. But thanks for ruining everyone else's day with the 38 goals in 6 years, or 5 or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter.
I feel like I'm face palming a lot in this episode. From everything that's going on.
That's fair. I
Or,
mean, like,
yeah.
it's just one of those news days where, like, the news just, like, it's just kind of brings you down.
Yeah.
So, like, just in addition to, like we'll just kind of burn through these, but other players that went through waivers were Sven Berchi, RIP, Justin Bailey, RIP.
Did
Guillaume
Sven Berchi end up on the taxi squad? Was that official today?
I don't think they've actually officially designated the taxi squad yet because of like what happened with all the injuries. IMAC tweeted out a couple players that were going to be on the taxi squad for sure, including Eriksson, D Pietro, Rafferty, Rathbone, Bailey, and he implied that Hoglander was going to be taxi squad as well, but that's changed now because of the illnesses to Miller and Benn.
And I think it was going to change at some point anyway, right? Like Hoglander was going to get into that lineup pretty quick.
Yeah, it was going to happen regardless. As for Berchi, I feel like I read a tweet from Rick Dollywall where he was like, there's like concerns about like bringing Berchi to Utica or something like that, but I could be wrong.
Okay. I mean, and in regards to D Pietro, supposedly, I think it was Patrick Johnson who was talking about how it's likely that he'll be loaned out to a Canadian AHL team, which I didn't think about with the goaltenders specifically. With the skaters that kind of clicked, but I guess with the goalies it didn't make sense. Partially because I said this on Twitter. I admittedly did not fully understand how the taxi squad worked.
Great. That entire exchange is so funny. I love that.
Especially because I got dunked on very fairly for it.
I love that. That's great.
So essentially, I assumed, like, very, very stupidly, that it was that in that the way the taxi squad worked is it was 6 players, like it was just an extended healthy scratches, so 6 players, so six healthy scratch players. Which of course, why would I think that? It's a cap league. I get that it's not, in the playoffs. That's how they would go.
Mistake.
It's an easy mistake.
An easy, hilarious mistake.
Yeah, yes, it is. But of course it makes in a salary cap league, obviously you can't have teams just doing that. You can't have teams just getting free passes to put however much money they want on their 6 healthy scratches. So what it is it's the 3 regular scratches plus the 6-player taxi squad that still has to go through waivers and everything if they're not waivers exempt. So with D Pietro, again, I kind of assumed that with D Pietro how it was going to be was he could kind of just bounce. They'd be able to kind of do the rotation there. And I said that on the first episode. I thought that was something smart there. I thought I was onto something, but no, because if you did that, you would have to put Thatcher Demko or Braden Holtby on waivers. No one's going to pick one of those guys up, right? No,
unless you completely change your roster to a point where you only have 1 or 2 available scratches, and then you put on 3 guys on waivers to send to the AHL, which would never happen.
Why would you do
run
that?
3 active goalies, which no team does, right?
Right. So it makes much more sense that D Pietro is not going to go to Utica because of the obvious quarantine concerns. But also because the the Jets, specifically the Jets system and the Manitoba Moose, are very low on goalies right now. They just lost Eric Comrie off waivers to who?
New Jersey.
New Jersey.
New Jersey, because they lost Crawford, they don't trust Gilles Sen to be their backup.
They have another one their other one is Wedgwood. They have Wedgwood as well, Scott Wedgwood.
Right, but his NHL numbers are horrific.
Right, they have two former Canadian World Junior goalies, both with the Wood suffix at the end there. They got Mackenzie Blackwood and Scott Wedgwood, and then they have Eric Comrie, I guess, as a third option now. Or,
I think Comrie,
technically second option. Yeah, that makes
he'll
sense.
He'll be their main backup
with
Ben in waivers because he has waiver exemptions. Right. But because they claimed Comrie, the Jets now have. They basically have to have Burdan as their taxi squad goalie if they weren't planning to otherwise, or they run a PTO, which is never going to happen.
Right, and then Ottawa's kind of in a similar boat, not to the same extent because
they have the right amount.
They did because they traded Anders Nilsson to Tampa Bay, who is apparently already not going to play due to injury issues. He's on LTIR for the Lightning. Yeah. And then their backup is a guy who's actually going to be pretty good pretty quickly, I think, here, Marcus Hogberg, who I thought was going to be a decent starter until they traded for Matt Murray. So that's their two there. They did need a third. I don't know who they have in Belleville.
I think it's going to be Philip Gustafsson, I believe.
Right, Philip Gustafsson,
Joey Decord.
Yeah, they have two pretty decent goalie
they've got
options there.
Available. Yeah.
But obviously now that one's going up, they need a second for Belleville.
Yeah.
And so Di Pietro could go there. I assume Manitoba is more likely, but either way, that's probably the two landing spots where you're going to see Di Pietro go. That I feel like, and that'll be good. So he'll get the AHL games, but just for a different team for a little bit.
Yeah, whatever. Who cares? Whatever. They loaned Sam Gagner up to the Marlies. Teams will.
It is just weird.
Friends, they'll do each other favors, right?
It's just weird to think about, right? Because I can't think of any other league that would have that kind of need necessarily.
Yeah.
Like MLB minor league system is so weird and to a point where I don't understand it whatsoever.
There's so many levels too. It's just like a nightmare.
It makes no sense. Yeah. This is I'm not that into baseball. I'm sure if you are, you get it. Yeah. But they obviously have a full glut of players. In the NHL, it's a little bit. It's just kind of weird to be like, oh, we're gonna loan this out to a rival or something for a little bit.
Yeah, it's so bizarre.
And hope they
don't injure our goalie, please.
Do not injure our goaltender or do something nefarious here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's how it's going to be for Di Pietro, and we'll get into the goalie situation on the NHL level in a little bit tonight. But for now, we'll see how this goes. Lots of these guys are going to go to Utica. Berchi might be taxi squad. Bailey, I think, might too. Justin Bailey?
I think Berchi's probably going to go to Utica regardless. I think I think his rope with the team is just kind of done.
Yeah.
Bailey, for whatever, I personally don't think Bailey is an NHL player. He has NHL wheels, but his game, he just looks like a deer in the headlights whenever he's in the NHL. He just doesn't look like he knows what to do. But then the rest of their taxi squad is really young players. You have Rafford, really young. I say that as an elderly man.
They're older than me. They are older than me.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so they have all these little babies on their team. They have Rathbone,
27,
Rafferty, and then Mark Michaelis. I don't think they've officially named their taxi squad yet, but I'm pretty sure just the numbers filter out where he would end up there, and if not,
shout out to you a little bit. Shout out to you a little bit there because you were on the ball with Michaelis there. That was
relatively.
I don't want to it wasn't unknown necessarily, but it was more of you had the inside track on that kind of stuff of hey, Michaelis is somebody to look out for, and even people I put Michaelis on both the broken taxi squad that I made and the correct one.
I loved your broken one though.
The broken one was very funny. Oh,
that was so good. I loved it. It was instantaneous. God. You dropped it, and then you had Boulis and Grady Sauce instantly being the numbers don't add up. It was so funny. I loved it.
They both were specifically Grady. Was I don't think Michaelis is going, but I was he will be going. I think he will.
You can rub that in his face now. And, we'll have him on the podcast, and we'll just rub it in.
I had one right.
I
guess two with Di Pietro and Eriksson. But it makes it I think it's the correct way. I think some people are kind of why would you put the younger players in the taxi squad? Shouldn't they be getting development time in Utica? I think not just because of injuries, but because I think there are a few players who have waiver exempt who could jump up and down. I don't think it's out of the question that they won't play games. Not a lot, but they will play.
No, but they'll
get ice time. I do believe.
The only tricky thing, the likelihood is that they'll only get game time, the forwards at least will only get game time, is if there are injuries or COVID concerns with their forward group, because no one in the forward rosters have waiver exemptions. So it's
you'd have to hope. Anymore,
they're all on their next contracts basically. Pedersen is surpassed the games and seasons required
all right,
on
Petey,
ZLC.
we're gonna give you a night off.
Yeah.
You're good.
Hey,
you know what? You've been working so hard lately that we're just like, hey, load management might actually be a thing this year for some teams. You never know. Frank, I don't know for this group probably not, but for some teams Some teams might honestly do the Kawhi Leonard Raptors thing where they're just like, we're gonna give our star player the day off to recoup. Like if you're ahead by a bunch of points. Why not?
Especially in the North Division when there's only of all the teams, you pretty much have to be a complete failure to not make it into the playoffs. You can afford to, if you're the top seed, to be like, hey, we're gonna rest Tim Stützle.
Toronto. Oh yes, Ottawa future division winner, the Senators.
The future division
That's
champs,
right.
Ottawa Senators.
Yeah.
But
they have no one everyone would have to pass through waivers on the forward group. Yeah, defense it's Oli, Ulevi, and then Hughes obviously is not going anywhere.
Players that do have a chance,
the
players that do have a chance to actually get games out of the taxi squad are those defenders. Rathbone has a chance, Rafferty has a chance because the one guy with waivers on the D core right now is Ulevi. So because Ulevi can flex up and down, you can kind of rotate things a bit to get guys games, and
which would be a good idea for
especially considering his health concerns. You can afford to give him a break because like I said in the last episode, he has zero regard for the health and safety of his knees or his body as a penalty killer. I mean that in the nicest way, not in the way that I eat 18 cheeseburgers in one sitting, but in the sense
actually done how I don't think you've done that, but I'd be what's
18
your,
is
I
at least
a record.
18 is at least 3 too high for me, but
3 too high.
No, I'm kidding. I've never cracked double digits for burgers. That'd be disgusting.
I would certainly hope so.
I don't think I'd be alive if I tried that. But anyway.
Well, Joey Chestnut can eat some ridiculous amount of hot dogs in 5 minutes.
He's a competitive food eater.
Right, and they eat healthy. That's the whole thing, right? They eat healthy. 364 days of the year. It's that one day they go a little nuts. They probably eat insanely healthy on every other day, right?
Yeah. But anyway, we're getting
completely off topic. But that's what the show is.
The other maneuver that the Canucks made, outside of their taxi squad and all the players they put on waivers, including the aforementioned guys such as Berchi and Rafferty and all that. We had Travis Hamonic signed to a contract finally.
Yes,
after
officially.
his impressive PTO
his tryout
where he just lit the world on fire in that one practice of his, and he was good in practice. They gave him 1.25.
No goals allowed during the preseason. There were no goals. He had a great when he was on the ice during preseason competition. No pucks went in. Yeah. That's the record. The stats speak for themselves.
It's so good. They didn't even want him in a scrimmage. But I thought this was really funny. Apparently, you can't laugh at things like this, but I find it funny that they gave him a no movement clause for his 1 year deal. It doesn't matter because it's a 1 year deal, but it's just so funny that even for a minuscule contract like this, you still get one.
I will say that. In this particular year, I do see full merit in why you would give a 1 year deal guy a
or you would
clause,
want one,
because how much would that kind of suck if you sign this contract that's very team friendly? This is an extremely team friendly 1 year deal.
Yeah.
And in a year where there's all the COVID concerns and crazy stuff and quarantine stuff going on, if they were we're packing you up and sending you to Florida, to Tampa or something, right?
You'd want
that would suck. That would be garbage if you gave them that that great a discount on what your talents is. Mike Hoffman's in the same camp, I think, with the Blues. He just signed his PTO as well. Yeah. Where they're these guys would Hamonic might not be making as much, wouldn't be making a lot necessarily in a normal year compared to what he's getting now, but he would be making more and probably for a longer term of time. It's only because of all the cap issues and again, the cap not going up that he's not making as much money as he would. I do feel like it would kind of suck if they were hey, we're gonna like at near the end of the season, we're gonna trade you. I do think in this particular this case, there is some merit to giving the 1 year deal a move clause.
Let me clarify. It is fine to give a guy like Hamonic who has like kind of concerns with his family and stuff no movement clause.
I forgot. I didn't even
he's
think of
completely earned it. I just love the fact that the Canucks GM just can't avoid giving no movement clauses to players he signs off out of free agency. It's like it's so funny because you look at their cap friendly and it's just every single player that's been signed by him in the last 3 years has a modified no trade clause or a no movement clause. It's so funny. But anyway.
Yeah, literally all of them. Like all except for Jordie Benn. That's like the only one on here that I can see.
Mm-hmm.
These are every single one of them. JT Miller
wonderful.
was a trade.
Yeah.
So that doesn't count. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're all like that. That's so
it's
nuts.
Great. It's super funny, but
I think Mike Gillis was kind of like that as well. One of the few things that Mike Gillis was a good GM. He gave out a lot of no moves.
Yeah,
he gave out a few.
He wanted his
no
folks to stay, and I get it. So, all these contracts and movements aside, we're still kind of waiting on the official like Canucks word about the taxi squad and whatever.
Can I ask you a question? Were there any players that the Canucks put on waivers that the Canucks put on waivers that you thought could or possibly get claimed, and vice versa? And I guess on a vice versa, are there any players that went on waivers that you think the Canucks should have tried to claim that didn't, that went unclaimed?
I mean, I think for the players they put on waivers, like they didn't really stand a risk of losing any of them. I
assumed, but I was wondering if maybe there was somebody interesting that like some team might have had like a look at. Especially because you would know the comment players. It is
kind of funny. It's kind of very funny that they waived Baertschi, and like of all people that would slot in like the left wing, that would be a good fit in the absence of JT Miller is him. Like you put him alongside like Besser and Horvat again, and you just completely jumble and throw everything around. Like he would actually be a good fit, but like obviously, like we said, his time is done with the team. Mm-hmm. But like from across the league, I think there were some pretty decent players out there. Like you had Oliver Shillington out of Calgary. You had Josh Hosang out of the Islanders.
Oh my God, poor Josh. Like, okay, yeah, we're gonna talk about this right now. I cannot believe the garbage that Josh Hosang has gone through with that Islanders team. Like this, it's like. Yes, there have been the whole locker room issues thing, which are very vague for some reason.
Yeah, you wonder why.
And then all the whole crap of, he can't wear 66. That's Mario Lemieux's number. You know, that superstar that played for a completely different franchise. Yeah. He can't wear that.
Not retired by the league.
Retired by the league. And then the Islanders just straight up refusing. This guy who's a decent hockey player by all accounts.
Yeah.
Not no team seems to be like either willing to pick him up, or the Islanders are I don't think the Islanders are blackballing him per se, but they've completely messed this guy's career up to a point where who knows? Like I mean, you know, I have my beliefs on why they're like this there. You know, I can't put my white finger on it, unfortunately.
Yes.
But
I thought there's a great tweet.
It's such a load. It's such a load of crap.
Oh, completely. Like
how they've treated him.
There was a great tweet from I think it was Sam Chang. I saw either retweeted or something today where it was like,
when has Sam had a bad tweet? Frankly?
I know that's true. Like just to clarify, every tweet is gold.
Every tweet, every one of them.
But her tweet today was like, Hosang sleeping in at that Islanders camp that pretty much set off all the dominoes happened like less than 30 days before or after Ryan O'Reilly drunkenly smashed his car into a Tim Hortons, or was that McKinnon? I can't remember.
That was Ryan O'Reilly. You're thinking of McKinnon.
I'm thinking of the commercials. I'm thinking of the actual commercial that he's in.
Sidney Crosby was in the car with him.
Yeah. He was an accomplice.
Wow.
It's very suspicious that you have like this white athlete get away with like a literal crime, and you have this young African-American athlete do something as minor as sleeping in, and it's somehow completely derailed his trajectory and labeled him as this difficult to work with prima donna or something, when all he's really asked for is a chance, especially after seasons like the one time he got like 27 games with the Islanders, and he was like your goals for rate and your 5v5 goal scoring is like the best when I'm on the ice, and yet I can't get ice time and I'm stuck in the minors. And then they tell him to not report to Bridgeport. Then they tell him to report to San Antonio Rampage. Like, it's just such a joke. Like, for someone
so
like who's blatantly an NHL winger.
Him.
Yeah,
it's so obvious that they're sabotaging him.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. And some team could be could have been straight up a legit hero just by claiming him. Yeah. And even if they just put him on their normal AHL team to start with, or like, I guess they would be taking him for their club, for their NHL team in this particular case. Yeah. But just getting him out of that situation, like you'd be doing that this kid who deserves a shot, such a good, like you'd be doing such a good thing to give this kid a chance, and he's not getting it. And it's sad. Jesus, all the sad topics we've been going over for the last 3 episodes.
Well, I'll quickly wrap it up here, just because there was a conversation I had with, or I don't know if I had this conversation or if I'm conflating what I wished I had this conversation with someone.
You saw somebody else have like a Twitter.
I saw someone having this conversation, and I've now warped it into my brain thinking I had this conversation.
Because you agree with it so much.
Because I agree with it so much. Because I'll tie it into my little other point here I got here. Someone said that the best option that teams could have at this point is that if you've signed a player to an ELC, that say it's just going horribly, like you can just tell like there's like it's just not working, it's not gelling whatsoever, that teams would be they could exercise the option of canceling the ELC, and both the player and the team would have to agree on it. And then they just go about their ways and the player becomes a free agent. Mm-hmm. And I bring this up because you have a player like who is obviously not even remotely close to like a Josh Ho-Sang level, who could possibly be an NHL talent if he was just not stuck under the thumb of the Islanders right now. Mm-hmm. But you have a guy like Patrice Palmu, the guy I stand for really hard, who was an electric talent with the Liga on his second year of his ELC. Mm-hmm. He, goes to Utica. He doesn't get really a good shot. He gets a few games on the first line with Adam Gaudette. The team sucked during that period. It doesn't go well. And then he's stuck on the fourth line with like ECHL players and
that was the
AHL guys who don't produce, and nothing comes of his development. So he says, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, you cut out, you glitched, and I started talking, thinking you had paused.
My bad.
That's okay. That could be my computer. This is what happens when we're doing the show over Zoom, right? When you have to do the show over Zoom at this point. This is COVID life. We got to get used to it.
We're still figuring this out, folks. But
yes.
So Patrice Palmu, he left on pretty unfavorable terms with still 2 years remaining on his ELC. And it's kind of like this black mark for the team that I'm sure they don't even want either. I bet if they really wanted the chance, they would see him leave the AHL team instead of, Palmu coming out and being like, yeah, my development in the team sucked. I needed ice time. I wasn't getting it. Like, I don't know what the hell they're doing. Instead of another 2 years of people being like, hey, what happened with this guy? Like, aren't you guys like mad this happened this way? The team could then be like, no, we're going to void the ELC. The player agrees to it, and he can sign wherever he wants. There's no issues from there on out. It's just the player's free to do whatever he wants. And that's kind of what a Ho-Sang needed. He's still, for whatever reason, stuck with this Islanders team, who I'm pretty sure he's not on an ELC. He was an RFA, and they re-signed him. So it's like, are they doing it out of spite? Like, why would you not just let him go if you can't stand him?
Yeah, I don't know why. And then I remember that Utica season. That was, I believe, that was 2019. That was the 2018-19 year.
That was the first season I started recapping games, and it was a bad year.
And that was the year I was doing Barracuda stuff, so I remembered the Comets a lot more from that time span. And then, of course, there was the Dolan stuff.
Yes.
That also came same
kind of issues.
Same issues. Same issues. And that's, and that was the quotes I got at the time. We got to Fear the Fin. I guess to kind of tie it back to my Barracuda stuff as well, with Oliver Shellington, this is completely different, just going in different
It's all good. Let's get it on a more positive note by talking about players and their happy development.
Yes. Oliver Shellington was a guy I remember going to see when the Heat and the Barracuda were playing. And he stood out, and he stood out really well. Like, he was getting points, like, as a defenseman, like a good, solid amount of points. And then he's done well as like as less of a scorer, but with the Flames. And I don't know why he didn't get claimed. I not that the Canucks necessarily were the team who should pick him up, but like, I mean, I wouldn't have faulted them if they did. If you see a great guy, you take him.
But yeah, it's kind of like a question like,
I don't know why.
Why
he was left.
Like, if your options are like a Jalen Chatfield who can't produce at any level, and like, there's no guarantees he will be able to even produce a single point in the NHL level, let alone the AHL level. If you're left with him versus like an Oliver Shillington, what's the risk in really putting a Chatfield on waivers and sending him to your farm, and then picking up Shillington instead and having him as your scratch? I don't know. It didn't really make sense to me personally. But
it is very odd. I'm surprised no teams picked him up. I heard the Bruins at one point had interest, as if they need any more good talents. But weird. He will not. It's weird that they missed out on that. That a lot of teams missed out on that. Well, all right. What now?
Let's get into now that we've kind of covered like all the roster maneuvers, we can actually preview in a very bizarre twist of events. We can preview the first games of the Canucks season, because oh my god, they're happening within a day. They're happening, if you're listening to this morning, we're previewing tonight's game, which is a very weird sentence to say.
Tonight's game, no preseason games. There's no build up. I'm writing a little bit of an article, like just a very quick one for the site that I think is going to also go up today. Just about how this is just like going to be how you kind of want to embrace how weird this season is. This is going to be unlike any. This won't even be like the playoffs, right? Like the playoffs, there's the built-in intensity. There's the built-in here's your prize, here's what you're playing for. It's the Stanley Cup sort of thing. There is the obvious incentive and the kind of almost a tournament, and there was the more of the tournament aspect to it, right?
Yeah.
That makes it kind of like feel like a normal sporting event.
Yeah.
This is going to be so different, because you're going to be seeing games in all the same arenas that there's going to be no fans in the building. There's going to be there will be some rivalry stuff, and there'll be intensity as well as the season builds. But there will also be points where like the season gets sometimes a little bit slow, and it's a little bit more of that slug as you get towards the playoff push in the middle of the year. Where sometimes it might be a lot harder for players almost to get up and excited for those games, especially when there's nobody cheering them on. There's nobody it's going to be really weird. It's going to be such a weird experience.
And also like likening back to Loui Eriksson's first game with the Canucks, like this is going to be a very weird way to set the tempo and the pace for your season, because you're starting off with a back-to-back. You're starting with like a brand new kid on your second line with a guy who's traditionally been your matchup center. It's going to be a game of matchups, and everyone's coming in completely cold.
Yeah. And
it's against two of the most valuable players to their team in Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid.
I mean, there are worse teams to start against in this division. Well, there's one.
Well,
there's one.
Yeah.
There's two.
There's kind of two, because like there's the Leafs, who are very good. But then you have like the Winnipeg Jets, who for whatever reason always have the Canucks number.
Oh,
great.
We're gonna do our North division. We have the whole other set of the stuff that we're gonna do tonight as well. Because again, this is the big episode. This is the big
hype up episode.
Into like the real regular season stuff, which is almost a whole other thing.
Yeah.
This is, like I was gonna say Calgary, because imagine starting off against Jacob Markstrom, Chris Tanev, Josh Lebo in their building, which is
they kind of do. They play them right after.
They play them right after
2 and 3, but
oh my god, that's gonna be so weird. That's gonna be so weird.
But yeah, you're right. If they immediately started like back to backs against Calgary, like just the storylines heading into like the first game, like it's so good.
It's the Vancouver Canucks versus the Calgary Canucks. It's like when you put NHL. It's like when you as a kid you would put your same team playing against on both sides and be like, it's the Canucks against the Canucks, and it'd be the same like audio bits and everything. Yeah. That's kind of what it would 7-6. Yeah, exactly. And you'd be like, "Yay, I won!" Regardless of who.
Yeah, I did it.
Yeah, we did it. Yeah, Canucks win. Hell yeah. That's kind of the vibe that you get from like from Calgary here. It's going right into just the whole like it's almost like a baseball season to a degree, right? Because it's going to be these like little like mini sets of games against teams. Most of them will just be two. Will just be two games against an opponent at a time.
But just in January alone, like you have the Habs three games 4 nights, Ottawa 3 games 4 nights, like
all in Vancouver too. All in Vancouver.
Yeah, like they're gonna be really like hotly contested matches. Like the first month, like you said, is probably going to be like a lot of feeling out process. But once like the state, like obviously without Miller, if the Canucks like kind of waffle a bit and are going 500, there's going to be suddenly this like kick into overdrive where they're like, okay, we have 48 games remaining to get our shit together because we can't afford to go 500 for the next month or we're fucking screwed.
Yeah. This is it's so weird that like you mentioned Winnipeg, and I remember I talked about this before you started on the show. One of the episodes I did this season was talking about how one bad season series against one other team could destroy your entire year.
Yeah.
And for the Canucks, that's Winnipeg. That team for me, that team is Winnipeg. Yeah. Winnipeg, if you go the same kind of if you kind of go the same kind of projected totals that you did against Winnipeg in a normal season, where you're looking at almost 2 wins out of 12, or like in this case, like maybe 2 wins out of I think it's 9. I think it's 9. I think they play the Jets 9 times, or 9 or 8 times. That could make like almost a 14-point difference in the standings between you and them. And that's not including all the other teams that will win and pass you in that time. Every single game is a divisional game, so every single game is worth double points to a certain extent. So you have to at least hope that, A, there are some teams that you can do that to. Yeah. There are some teams that you can just run right through. And I know the easy punching bag is Ottawa, but you have to kind of do it against some teams that are going to make the playoffs, because you need to build that room between you and them to getting in. And
you also have to kind of remember too is that last year Ottawa was still the punching bag, and the Canucks team that had Markstrom on it, and they drew, and in one of those games they gave up a hat trick to Bobby Ryan.
in his game, like it was one of those.
In his return game,
it was like a return game. Yeah,
it was a wonderful story, but
wonderful story, but I was pissed.
Yeah, of course, because it's just like you can't afford to be giving up hat tricks to 3,000-year-old Bobby Ryan in a return game after 6 months layoff or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And
that's the season in a nutshell. Is there's going to be some games on the schedule where like objectively you'd be like, oh, this seems like it should be winnable. It's like the other team's coming off a back-to-back or whatever, and like the Canucks of old would like kind of slough it off and not really try that hard in those winnable games. But in a season like this, you have to bring your A game. And if they start out bad against Edmonton and don't have their A game and they look off, bad news bears.
Yeah. I'll say this in terms of the Oilers and everything with the 2 games that are coming up, because I mean we'll have plenty of time to go over all the other games going forward.
Yeah.
I mean we have the Friday show right before they start the Calgary series, and after this one, with Edmonton, it's an interesting litmus test coming up because again, like we mentioned, McDavid and Draisaitl, 2 of the best players in the NHL, arguably both in the top 5 right now. Although of course we all know that the actual best player in the Canadian division right now is Elias Pettersson. That's a proven fact.
That's not even up for debate.
That is not up for debate.
Guaranteed.
Not up for debate. That's not up for debate, especially if you're an Oilers or a Leafs fan listening. Yeah. That is especially not up for debate. Yeah. But like the Oilers, yes, they have those cheat code type players.
Yeah.
But the Oilers have a lot of holes.
Their goaltending is a joke. Like,
they wanted Jacob Markstrom very, very badly, and they did not get him. They also, I believe, wanted Braden Holtby pretty badly after Markstrom didn't work out, and the Canucks got him, so that didn't work. There were a lot of There were so many goalies available, and the Oilers got absolutely none of them. And I believe their third-string guy was Anton Forsberg, who got claimed by the Hurricanes, I think, today.
Yes, that's right.
He's gone, so they have nothing. They have nothing going for them. Mikko Koskinen kind of found his rhythm last season during the regular season, and then for some reason Dave Tippett went to Mike Smith, just super old Mike Smith, and it did not go well right out of the gate. And then Koskinen looked completely off the entire series against Chicago, got out.
That whole team, pretty much outside of McDavid,
yes.
was just like they could not be less invested in returning to play. They didn't give a shit.
Which is insanity when you're the Oilers and you're a team that has only won one playoff series has only had one playoff appearance in the last in the Connor McDavid era, which is nuts. And you were the division winners I believe, like, they were the division winners, weren't they? Like, I
believe they were the top.
Sorry. They were the division. They were the best team in the division out of the ones that were in the qualifiers. Sorry, Yeah, they were I think they were 5th, and because the Hawks were the last team in the West to make it, and they lost. But they do have a bit of an upgrade. They do have a few upgrades this year. They have Kyle Turris, who they got for, I believe, pretty cheap. In Nashville, that relationship hadn't been working out in Nashville. He gets a second chance with Edmonton. They do get Tyson Barrie, which is an upgrade on their defense, particularly on the power play. If he gets power play time
offensively, because they lost a Clefbaum for the season.
Right, that's a huge loss.
Funny side note. Shout out to my buddy who joined a work fantasy pool
and drafted Oscar Clefbaum.
He drafted Nikita Kucherov first.
Oh no!
And then he drafted Oscar.
Oh no!
Yeah, so he was like, "Why am I projected last?" And I was like, "Buddy,
I will also
bad news for you."
I do have to call someone out today. Someone on Twitter today said, after the JT Miller and Jordie Benn news came out, I saw somebody on Twitter had the nerve to go, I drafted JT Miller on my fantasy team. It's like, yes, that's what's concerning right now. That's the most important thing, is your fantasy team now.
Put that in a postcard to his wife and kids. He'll appreciate that.
Yes, I'm sure they will love your complaining that he is sick and not playing for your fantasy team.
Yeah. Otherwise, games are going to be fun.
Yes.
I'm hype.
That is funny because he missed. The one thing I do want to ask here, and this is a question that's been coming up a lot on Canucks Twitter, is who's going to start in net? I have my opinion. I have my belief on who should go here. And I'll say this: I saw an Athletic article talking about the top goalies in the league, doing the top 50, they had them tiered out. And one of the first comments on their anonymous group panel or something was if you have a goaltender, if you have a hot goalie, you're gonna ride him through the whole season, which is absolutely not what you should do.
Yeah, have they looked at the schedule?
Yes, for some teams that might be a necessity. Edmonton probably being one of them to a certain point. But if you have 2 capable goaltenders, no, you shouldn't just grind out back-to-backs with your goaltenders. You will not because they will not be ready for you when the playoffs come, because they will be gassed. So don't do that. Cody, who do you think who are you going with for game one? Because there is kind of an importance level here of who plays first.
I think I think Green is a guy that respects his veterans. So I think out of respect for Braden Holtby, I think he's going to give him the first game. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he's, maybe the right choice for first. I think if they wanted to say like, Demko, you're our guy in the future, they would give him the first start. But I just feel like Green is the type that like he values guys who've grinded in the league for a long time. So Holtby will get the start. That's just me personally.
Okay. Who would you start who would you start in this case? Would you also go
I would probably go, actually, I think I would go Holtby anyway, because I think you would want to give your younger, more athletic goalie the back-to-back or the back end of a back-to-back, because he's going to probably face, a bit tougher shots because his team's going to be tired in front of him. That's just my opinion. Okay.
That's interesting because, I'm going in the almost opposite. For the opposite. Not only am I going opposite, I'm going for opposite reasons almost. Okay. I think the Canucks, I think Demko particularly from his play in the Vegas series, which is, yes, a long time ago, it doesn't necessarily factor into what he's going to bring to the table now. Right. I think the fact that he played so well in that series for the Canucks I think it's why you say, hey, this is your guy. And I think he will be for the majority of the season. I think he's the 1A, while Holtby is the 1B. So I think you go to your young goaltender, your goalie of the future, who is more or less your goalie of the present right now anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
And say, this is your game. This is you. You're going to get the team at its freshest. Let's go. Yeah. And Holtby, being the experienced guy, I would say is the more capable guy to come in and handle the second game of the back-to-back, because he has that level of experience of playing so many games for the Washington Capitals over the last so many years. I'm sure he has played his fair share of like plus 60 game seasons, because not because they didn't have backup goaltenders, but he was the guy. He was 100% the guy for the Capitals for almost, I believe, half a decade. Or more than half a decade. So I would say he's almost more equipped to handle the second game of that back-to-back coming in, especially against like Connor McDavid and everything. And also, he's new to the team and didn't get any preseason time. He is no aside from obviously playing with Nate Schmidt. Yeah. With Nate Schmidt in Washington, he's not used to playing in front of this team. This is a completely new defensive group for him. Different forward group. He doesn't know their tendencies. They don't necessarily know his to a certain extent. Mm-hmm. I would say that it almost behooves the team more to give him the chance to watch them in a game, to watch them in game action, and to see what works, and to see how it goes, and be able to go, okay, give him the opportunity to watch and see, okay, so this is what I'll want, because different goalies need different things. You play different styles, and that was proven in the Vegas series when the Canucks very clearly played a completely different style in the final games 5.
They completely overhauled their strategy, basically,
their defense,
and
it worked. It worked. They won
2 It wasn't games. Pretty, and it was really hard on the goalie, but it worked. It forced Game 7, right?
They won 2 games. They won the majority of those games. Yeah, and I think they know, and I think the best teams are able to adapt to their goaltenders and be able to play different styles and understand that one system does not fit all. And
for sure,
again, with Holtby, no preseason time to work with any of these guys, so give him the second game, give him the opportunity to watch what the team does, this pretty new, different group does, and also give Demko the vote of confidence that you have the belief that he's going to carry this team for the future.
For sure. Well, on that note, that segues perfectly this discussion of goaltending and starters into something we're pretty excited to do right now, which is our season predictions for the Canucks this year. We were a little nervous that we weren't going to be able to get it done in time before the season started, because the Canucks were taking their sweet time for announcing their starting roster and their taxi squad.
And apparently there was a reason behind that. A not so great reason.
They had a pretty good reason. I'm not gonna lie. They
okay. You've earned the. It's one of those. This is why you're in the principal's office thing. But it's like okay. Okay, we understand. We're not gonna. This is no detention here. No detention.
Yeah. Okay, I get it now. So what we've done is we're gonna share our little bingo sheet. I'm gonna call it a bingo sheet because it's just easier. Yes. But what we've done is we've picked a bunch of random stats for individual players, for all the players that we thought were going to be on the starting roster and the guys that were going to be on the taxi squad. Yes. And we're going to go through them one by one. And instead of making it like, just raw, like here's goals, here's, total games played or whatever, we try to made it unique to each player just because, we wanted to keep it a little spicy and try to maximize how wrong we could be so that on Twitter we could make fun of each other and maybe you guys could play along too and make some engagement out of this and we might have
to make a little bet out of this. We might have to have like a season-ending bet, like a season bet here or something.
Well, let's make it something cooler than a pack of gum because that's like the lamest thing.
Wow, going after like the best, like one of the best podcasts in the city. Wow,
it's all right. They're pretty good at what they do.
Oh my god,
they're not great, but
of course, this is gonna be like the episode where one of them checks out what we're doing. Is like, they're never coming on. They're never want to come on again.
We got blacklisted. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna list them out for you, and we're gonna pick the over or under on all of these different stats. So we're not gonna be guessing numbers. And then we've got some bonus questions as well about the season to prove as tiebreakers in the off chance that we actually tie for points at the end of the year.
And it gives us a good opportunity to also go over just like the players and what we're we're thinking and what we're looking for this season and everything because every player's got different skill sets and everything and. Brings different things to the table, and it's going to be cool to see how they do this year in this very weird year.
All right. So with that in mind, let's try to remember Canucks are doing a 56-game season. So when we say some of these point totals, you just got to remember it's a shortened season. Yes. So that's why the numbers sound a little goofy. So with that being said, Elias Pettersson, Lachlan, do you think he's going to be over or under 25 goals this year?
Well, I mean, the JT Miller stuff goes a little bit into whack. Obviously, again, still best player in Canada, so it does. So maybe that doesn't matter. How many goals did he had last season? So he had last season. He had. Pettersson only had so Pettersson had 27.
Yeah, 27. He was
okay.
Yeah.
A little. So he was, but he was more the he was an assist guy. He was the assist guy.
Yeah, but he was tied for first in goals scored for the team.
Yes. I'm gonna say. You know what? Why not? Let's go. I'm gonna say over. I'm gonna say over this year.
I was actually gonna say over too. So I'm gonna throw us both on overs because I think with the absence of Miller, I have a feeling Petey's the type of guy that is just gonna step the fuck up for the team, and that will bring us to our next player, Quinn Hughes. Over or under 40 assists. For perspective, last season had 45 assists in a 68-game span.
I'm glad you have the list. Cause I do not have that.
I got it all for us, so we don't have to spend too much time on it.
He had 48 assists last year. I'm gonna say on that. Again, because it's weird, especially because we have to factor in the competition is so different as well this year and everything, right? Yeah. I'm gonna say under on that one. Okay. I feel like there is going to be a few opportunities I think here where they might be able to run up the score a little bit. But for going from 48 assists in 80 or I guess how many games did they play last year? They played 60 something.
68. He played 68. So
68. I believe that was the full season. I don't think he missed I think he missed one game last year, like against Anaheim.
Yeah, it's when he rolled his ankle awkwardly in that one game, and everyone freaked out that he was going to be done for the year, and then he came back the next game after.
Yeah, they played a very nice 69 games from the looks of things.
So I'm going to do the opposite of you, and I'm going to say over. Because
good. Okay.
I don't know. I want to be optimistic because I spent the entire episode being negative. So I'm going to say over.
I'm not saying I don't believe in Quinn Hughes. I'm saying I don't believe in the time frame he's given.
Yeah.
I don't say I think if he does it, insanity. It's fantastic. Huge. And I also just almost wouldn't put it past him, but I'm going to say under.
I'm pegging for insane. So now this gets to one of the tougher picks now. We're going to go with JT Miller, the Canucks leading scorer of last year, who was above a point per game just slightly with 72 points in 69 games. Do you think, even with missing possibly 7 or 8 games, he is going to score 45 points over or under?
I'm gonna say, well, last year in a 69 game season, Tanner Pearson had 45 points. Was fifth place, so he had 45 points in a 69 game year. That was the 5th best highest scorer on the team that year. I'm gonna say with all the missed games, it's with the missed game. If he were healthy, playing the full year, I think he probably could hit the over. But I'm gonna have to go with under here. I think it's pretty clear he's not gonna get there. I'm
in the same boat, so we won't talk too much about these. So we'll try and rip through them pretty quick.
All the best to JT. All the best to him.
Bo Horvat, 20 goals over or under. He scored 22 last year in 69 games, and he led the playoffs with goals as well for the team.
You know what? He's going to get Höglander on that right side with him and Tanner Pearson. Tanner Pearson had a career year last year playing with Bo Horvat. I don't see... Maybe Höglander might not be necessarily a Tyler Toffoli out of the gate, but I think he'll get, considering they'll get so much more time together, and he'll finally be getting a lot more of an offensive role instead of being played so strictly defensively, and the playoffs prove that he can do it. He can score at a good pace and score nice goals. I'm gonna say over. Let's go. Why not? Over for Bo on the goals there.
I'm on the same boat as you there.
Nice.
So Tanner, that brings us to his line mate, fellow Niels Höglander fan, Tanner Pearson. Over or under 15 goals.
I'm gonna say under for this one because almost for the same reason that I'm picked the over on, for a similar reason that I picked over on Horvat. With Horvat and Höglander playing on your wing, likely considering that they probably will play on that wing together. Yeah. Pearson is not going to be the finisher on that line. He's not for most of the year. He's not going to be the finisher. He's going to be a setup man. I think he'll do pretty well in assists, but I don't think, and he's not going to hit his career total high from last year. I'm going to say under for goals. I think he's just going to be getting the puck, the finishing shots less.
Okay. I'm going to go over because I have a feeling he's going to be the insurance line staple. Bo Horvat won't be, but I think it's going to be Tanner Pearson and
he did have a lot of empty
Beagle and Sutter or something. He's going to be like the empty net king this year again. So that brings us to our next man, Brock Besser, 30 assists, over or under. Last year, he had 29 in 57 games.
I tell you,
which is pretty much what they're playing this year is 56. So
yeah, he's looked apparently great in training camp, and a lot of people think he's gonna go off this year, and I'm with them on it. I'm with them. I think this is good. There's been the last couple seasons where he's almost been kind of, not that he's been quiet. He's been quietly very good just because of Pettersson being there, as well as just like JT Miller and everything else. That his successes have been a lot less highly touted and everything.
Yeah.
Gotten a lot less airtime, I guess.
For sure.
Yeah, I say he does it. Over. Okay. I'm gonna say over.
I'm gonna go under because I have a feeling his goal total is actually gonna skyrocket. I think he's gonna be near his 30 goal pace from like his rookie year this season. Just a hunch.
Why not both?
Why not? So
60 points in 56 games. Who says he can't, right?
Let's fucking go. Okay. Their new de facto line mate for at least the first couple weeks of the season, Jake Virtanen, old shotgun Jake himself. 15 goals, over or under?
So basically, I'm here. I'm guessing how many things Tommy Kipps is going to have to shotgun this year.
You're setting up Tommy Kipps for how many drinks he's going to take this year.
You know what? Let's set him up for success here. Again, I harp on Jake Virtanen. Yeah. I think the most out of I'm going to say second most actually. He's the most out of the forwards. I give Jake Virtanen the hardest time for specific reasons, for fair reasons.
Mm-hmm.
When I do, it's because I want to see him succeed. I want to see him become the player that he was supposed to be, regardless of where it is and what line he's playing on.
Fair.
I'm gonna say over, and that the stuff that Tommy's gonna have to be shotgunning this year is just gonna get even exponentially worse because he's gonna have to top last year, which was already bad. Shout out to Tommy Kipps, by the way. I don't know if he listens, but
I'm in the same boat.
He does some crazy stuff.
I'm in the same boat. I want to see Tommy Kipps drink the most disgusting shit. So I'm hoping JV can do his boy a favor. Next up on the forwards is Adam Gaudette, 15 goals. Last season, he scored 12 in 59 games and 21 assists in 59 games. So
now, who do we have him playing with here?
Right now, I think he's penciled in on a line with Antoine Roussell and Zach Mckeown on like a fourth scoring line.
Yeah, because I mean that line can produce. They were
pretty good last year.
Yeah, they can produce. I will say I think so. It's 15. It's 15 or I have 15. Okay, I will say just based on the general ice time that he's going to be getting and everything, I think it's going to be hard for him to hit 15.
Okay.
Actually, this one is really hard. I don't know. I think we gave Virtanen the over, but he's going to be playing on.
But he's literally the first line playing with like the Stars, right?
Right. So I gotta go under just based on the chances he'll be getting. I'm gonna say under for Adam. Although I think in a normal year he would hit that no problem.
Yeah. I went with the over just because I'm hoping he takes that next step and he becomes a bit better than he was last year offensively.
Me too.
So fingers crossed. Being optimistic. So the next guy that we'll be trying to be optimistic about is old man Alex Edler, or Alex Edler, as he's more known by his family.
Yes.
30 points. He hit 33 last year as a 77-year-old man in 59 games. What do you think about that? I'm personally going to hit the under just because I'm concerned he's going to hit that wall of age. And as great as Nate Schmidt is as a offensive partner, I feel like he's just going to hit that old age wall where his point totals kind of have themselves, and he's still good defensively, but the offensive pop just isn't quite as there.
I'm also going to say the under, and for the reason of the guy you just mentioned, which is Nate Schmidt. I think, and I believe it was already talked about that Nate Schmidt's been playing Power Play 2, has been on the second Power Play unit.
That's
right
Edler's
now.
Baby.
That was Edler's spot.
He's gone.
That was Edler's spot. That's a whole lot of your offensive opportunities gone.
Yep.
I think on that second Power Play unit, they'd be they would be still kind of inclined to go with a 4 defenseman 1D setup. So I don't think Edler's going to be playing on that unit unless they need to like shake things up. So I think a lot of his better offensive opportunities are going to be kind of gone, at least from a non 5-on-5 situation. So yeah, I'm going to say under as well.
Okay. Our next defensive man, Tyler Myers. I made this one a bit more realistic. So
yes, you did. Which is
the
weird.
over under on his penalties in minutes at 40 minutes. So that's basically like a minor penalty once every second game.
Which is funny because his penalty minutes in the regular season last year were only 24.
Yeah. I'm going off his playoffs. I have a feeling
Like,
that's just what he's going to become, and now that he's Good to
drove me nuts. He drove me
I know.
nuts. Oh
Now we thought he was going to be
God.
on a pairing with Oli Lovely. Lovely.
Very lovely.
You lovely.
Oli. Now I'm messing it up. Thanks a lot.
Sorry.
Oli, you are lovely.
Yeah. I'm going with the over just because I don't know.
Chaos.
I have a feeling it's just going to be. I'm Team Chaos, baby.
Me too. I'm Team Chaos as well. I'm going to again because I said before that Virtanen's the second guy I give the most trouble with. Tyler Myers is number one. Tyler Myers is number one. I'm gonna be nice here. I'm gonna say, especially because Myers is not a fighter.
Yeah.
I don't believe he has many many fighting majors in his career.
It's weird watching giraffes fight. Yeah.
Yes, it is. I'm gonna be nice here. I'm gonna be positive. I'm gonna say under. I'm gonna say he does. I'm gonna go based on his regular season statistic and say he will just not physically be able to take that many penalties in that amount of time. I hope. I really hope.
Nate Schmidt, 30 points, over or under?
Why don't you go first? You go first on this one. I've been going first on a lot of them. You go first.
I think because Nate Schmidt's probably going to be that power play 2 guy, he's basically going to just take Edler's point totals basically from last year.
Now, what did he get last year with the Golden Knights? Because that is a very.
I think he was pretty much the same kind of line as Edler, where he had like 34 or 33 points.
Okay.
So
and
I'm just basically assuming they're just gonna do a little switch of roles, and Schmidt's gonna take on that offense.
Okay. So the thing with Schmidt that I almost find interesting is you mentioned that you think he's gonna play with Edler on the second unit. I'm almost kind of surprised by that. I would almost especially because that kind of means by default Hamonic is going up to pairing 1 with Quinn Hughes.
That's happening.
Which I almost feel like is not.
It's not efficient.
It's not the right. I don't think it's the way. I think you should go with your bet. Because like Nate Schmidt, I believe had one of the best the best defensive numbers. Like some of the best defensive numbers in the NHL based on like playing against like the hardest competition.
Yeah, that's right. He had like the most minutes against like the top line competition or whatever. So it would make sense, but this team, they need a defensive guy and an offensive guy on the same pairing. No team wants 2 offensive guys. It's nonsense to me.
I think man would Troy Stecher really come in handy right now. I think eventually he is going to find his way up onto that first pairing with Hughes, because I think he provides a lot of help at keeping the puck out of their own net as well, and I think he'd be willing to defer a little bit off to Hughes at points as well.
Sure.
And I think when that happens, it's going to help. I think his point totals are going to go up, so I'm going to say over.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's speed round the next couple guys because they're just not interesting players. No offense to them, but fucking I don't give a shit.
What, Baton Rouge is not interesting to you? How dare you?
Okay, Brandon Sutter, do you think he plays more than half the season or less than half the season?
Now, we're basing this off of he gets scratched, right?
It could be injury, it could be scratch.
I'm going to say, okay, then I have to go with over. I do not want to be betting on guys getting hurt. I'm going to say over. I would feel so awful about that karma, about putting that kind of, like, that's bad. That's bad juju. That's bad juju, 100%. I'm going to say over.
I'm going with the under just because I think we've incurred so much bad juju, it doesn't matter at this point. And anything, maybe the karma will stack upon itself so heavily that it will cause good juju. So I'm going for that. Next,
Iron Man streak for Sutter, please.
Yeah, right.
Let's go.
Antoine Roussell, over under 10 goals.
Fourth line. If we have him penciled in on the fourth line, where was he last year? He had
7 goals in 41 games.
I'm gonna say under on that one. He's not, and even especially if he's playing on a fourth line with Gaudette and Zach McKeown, those are your shooters. He's not the shooter. Yeah. Under.
Agreed. Travis Hamonic, same idea as Brandon Sutter. Over or under half a season?
You take it on this one. Where do you think?
I think it's going to be over. I think he's going to be one of those guys who's in his contract year, and somehow he's just going to have like the season of his life on a pair with Quinn Hughes. Then he's going to go sign back with the Islanders or with the Leafs or something on some ridiculous deal that no one should ever sign him to. Or you know what? The Senators. That's where he'll go.
Well, he'll probably stay West Coast. He'll probably stay West Coast, right? For all the reasons
You'd think,
he's here. Like he might go to he might go back to Calgary, frankly.
Seattle.
Seattle. That's also an option. That's a great. That could be it right there. Yeah. You might have just figured it out. I'm gonna say also. Gonna say over. I'm gonna
just
say over.
Just because you're positive. Okay.
Yes, gotta say over on the injury on the games played. I gotta stay over.
Tyler Mott, more than 15 points or less. He had 8 in 34 games.
He had 8 in 34 games. Looked really good in the playoffs. Let's say Let's say Mott Karlsson goes into the winter and spring here. I'm gonna say over.
Okay, no disrespect to the broadcast, but Mott sucks. He's gonna be under 15. He's the worst. He's doing a great job at possibly injuring his own teammates. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I might be regretting. You know what? Now that I think about it, I might be regretting this call. I'm gonna say.
I've already locked it in. Sorry.
Oh, come on. You know what? Fine. Okay. Mott, Tyler, buddy, don't let me down here, please.
Okay.
Don't let me
Next
down
guy,
here, please.
Jay Beagle, over or under 28 games played, half the season.
Now, here I'm gonna say under, but not for the injury reason. I'm gonna say not for like injuries at all. I'm gonna say because he
straight up doesn't have the foot speed of an NHL player anymore.
He doesn't have the foot speed of an NHL player anymore. He is going to get bypassed by somebody. There's going to be a younger forward who is going to bypass him in that lineup, and they're going to need, probably, frankly, not even in his position, probably a winger. Like, I mean, we haven't even discussed the fact that Vasily Podkolzin might be a Canuck before this season ends. That's something to factor in. Oh, that might be something we should throw in the over-under. Will he play?
There we go. Okay.
Vasily Podkolzin play one game for the Canucks this year.
I'll switch up one of the bonus questions, but let's get through these first. So,
I'm gonna say under because I think he's gonna get passed sooner rather than later by some younger guys, and he's gonna end up as a taxi squad guy. More probably.
Okay, next guy. Currently on...
who did you pick? Wait, who did you go with?
I went under for the exact same reasons.
Okay.
So, next guy, Jordie Benn. Over or under 5 points?
Under. He's not going to play in this group. There are too many defensemen ahead of him. He's kind of just he's kind of just the insurance for if guys get healthy at this point.
I'm in the same boat.
I think he would have been taxi squad if he had not been sick. I think he would have been, or potentially sick.
He might still be for all we know.
Yeah, he might.
You never know. Next guy, Zach Mckeown, 10 points, over or under?
What did he have last year? He had
5 goals and
games.
1 assist.
In 17 games?
Yeah.
I'm going to say over. He's playing with... I think he and Gaudette I think there's a good fit there. I think there's a very good fit there if you give them the time. I'm going to say over, and I think it's going to be... I think it's going to work surprisingly well.
I'm in the same boat. I think... Give him a larger sample size. It might not be, as crazy of a scoring rate as he had now, but I think he'll develop enough chemistry with Gaudette to make something happen, or he gets power play 2-time. You never know. Next guy, Olli Juolevi. Hey, I said his name right. Look at that. Over under 28 games played.
That's pretty interesting. That's very interesting.
I'll start.
I have no idea.
I'm saying under, not because I think he might get injured, but because I think with Rathbone on the taxi squad, they're going to alternate between the two of them as much as they feel like they can. That would still
put him at, this would be half. So this would be half. So you'd be going for the even almost.
But I think there's going to be exactly one game where he's injured. So then the edge it'll put him under. He'll play 27 games.
So I'm gonna say over.
Okay.
I'm gonna say over because I think Rathbone is gonna bypass someone else. I think I honestly think there's a possibility that this is a hot take, I guess. I don't know if Tyler Myers will be playing in their top 6 by the time this is done. I think Rathbone might take him, and they might have to make room for Rathbone and Juolevi.
So you're thinking, even though he's a left side player. He's
I
going to
think
be
they
so
would-
good. He'll flip over and be better than Tyler Myers.
So I think they would, because he's the younger guy, they
Yeah.
would put him on the side he's most comfortable with, and they might shuffle over like Edler to the right, just to kind of ease it in, or who knows. I think there is a possibility that maybe Rathbone and Ulevi are playing by the end of the season on the same team.
That's some hot take Tuesday shit.
Yeah.
All right.
Why not? Why not?
The next one.
Fun.
This one was my favorite one to pick a number for. The over under on Jalen Chatfield, 1 point.
I'm gonna take a wild guess and say he had 0 last year.
So if you pick the over, I'm gonna
that?
count that as. If you pick the over, that means he gets 1 point or more. If you pick the under, that means you're betting he gets 0 points.
I almost want to hear what you have to say here first. I almost want to hear what you're. I'm guessing. I know. I think I know.
I'm gonna go with the over because I have a feeling he's gonna get 1 or 2 shifts in one game with Quinn Hughes. He's gonna pass to him, and Hughes is gonna score, and he's gonna get an assist, and that's all.
Easy money.
It's gonna be the easiest point of his entire life. So I'm going with the over.
You know what? Let's keep the positivity train going. Okay. I'm gonna say over 2. He'll get 1 point. He'll get at least 1 point. He'll play one game and he'll get 1 point.
The next guy is Niels Hoglander. Do you think he plays 20 games or more? Or sorry, more or less?
Over. Absolutely.
Over? Okay.
He's gonna be a mainstay in the lineup by the time the season's done.
Okay.
He really has the pieces to do it. I want to believe that he's got there might be the possibility that say he gets a little tired just because again he's one of the only players that's been playing this whole time.
Yeah.
But no, I think he's gonna do it. I think he's gonna be a good addition, whether that's in that top 6 or maybe even sort of like in a sort of a third line, just kind of a safety buffer sort of thing. I think he will play more than the majority of the year.
I'm going with the under purely because I don't think he's as ready as people think.
Okay.
And I would rather see him play 8 games and then go back to the SHL or something and play out the rest of his season than waste his rookie year trying to play matchup minutes while JT Miller is suffering with COVID. Doesn't seem worth it. So next guy, Jace Howerluck. Everybody's forgotten hero. So just for their listeners' purposes, the taxi squad technically isn't set, and because so many guys ended up on IR, the placement of players is kind of wonky at the moment. So we didn't know where to put guys like Howerluck or Mark Michaelis or whatever. So we just kind of threw him in this list of the starting roster, even though he's technically on IR. So for the purposes of this exercise,
he is on IR. He's on IR.
I don't even know if he's been placed on IR yet.
I assume he's not because he didn't go. I don't think he went to the hospital or anything, did he?
Well, he could go home, but if he still says he's not ready to play, they'll throw him on IR. It doesn't matter.
I think
Yeah, so 10 games or more or less. I'm taking the under because I have a feeling he was going to be a waiver guy being sent to Utica. Anyway,
he's a center, right? He's a center.
He's one of those guys you can play both. He can do center, he can do like left wing or whatever.
Okay, I'm gonna say under as well. I think he was kind of just he's definitely a safety. He's a safety net player for sure.
All right, we'll burn through these taxi squad guys quick, and then we'll go into the starting goalies. So Loui Eriksson, do you think he plays more than 15 games or less?
Under. He's gonna play less than 15. He will play. He'll play games, but I mean, again, the only reason he's getting into 15 games is if enough players get hurt to warrant that.
And you're trying to stay positive that doesn't happen.
Yeah, trying to stay positive that doesn't happen, and also I think there's a real possibility that say there's like a younger guy would come in and jump him in the taxi squad line. So I'm gonna say under for Loui.
I'm same boat. Justin Bailey, 10 games or over or under?
Under as well. I'm gonna say
I'm the same boat. I think I already discussed my opinions on Bailey.
Yeah, and I'm gonna more defer on your opinion with Justin Bailey because I don't know enough about him. So I'm gonna say under with him.
Okay, so Brogan Rafferty, more or less than 5?
I'm gonna say over. Wait, no. I'm trying to because I'm just remembering the defensive the amount of defense.
Yeah, because on the right side, he'd have to outplay Hamonic, Meyer, or you're basically hoping, or not hoping, but you would be pegging an injury
Somebody
on that right side. Basically.
Pegging probably multiple injuries because Jordie Benn's probably still going to be there. And again, Rathbone. We talked about Rathbone.
Yeah.
And I also just think Rafferty is one of those guys who's a little bit more, who's given a lot more, publicity or like than he maybe is necessarily warranting of.
Okay.
I feel like Rafferty is one of those. Just he's okay. He'd do fine in a pinch, but I wouldn't want him playing regularly. I'm gonna say under.
Okay, I'm gonna go over only because I'm just gonna guess that there's gonna be a lot of injuries this year. It's just a hunch. Condensed schedule, I think, is gonna fuck him up. But anyway, Jack Rathbone, I know you're on the over side of 5
yes,
games.
I am.
Okay.
I have decent hopes for him. The people who have been saying that he looks NHL ready are people who I would know, and I've seen like bits and pieces of his game.
Fair enough.
He has the speed for it. He has the IQ for it as well, which is really can get you places. I say over, and I think he's finishing the year with them.
Okay. So then we get to our goalies. So we'll start with the taxi squad goalie right now, which is Michael D Pietro. Do you think he gets more than 3 starts in the NHL? More or less than 3.
Holtby's pretty. I don't believe Holtby's had many injury issues.
He played like 4. He had 49 starts last year.
Yeah, he's
like,
pretty. He's
pretty durable.
Whether save percentage and stuff aside, he's pretty durable. Demko is a little bit more of a concern, but even still, I think he's mostly coming in pretty darn healthy this time around from all the waiting he's gotten. And again, if we'd gone under my original idea, which is very flawed for a lot of reasons, I would have said he probably does play over 3 games, but now probably not. I'm going to say under here.
Okay, so then we'll move to the NHL goalies.
Did you pick under?
I picked over, but based on so when I say over, I mean he's going to get 3 or more.
Okay.
I have a feeling it's, like I said, condensed schedule. I have a feeling just something's bound to go bad. Based on how bad things have been going so far, a part of me is just like, it has to happen. Which is ironic because in the playoffs, the Canucks were weirdly healthy. Like, for most of that run. Like, aside from the Jacob Markstrom thing at the very end, they were all their best players perfectly fine the entire time with, like, a little bit of Tyler Toffoli. Everything going right. Yeah. But, like, so the main crew,
completely contrary to everything else.
Yeah. Anyway, so then Thatcher Demko or Braden Holtby. So, basically, you're picking who's going to get the start here. So, do you think Thatcher Demko is going to be the backup with 22 games or less? Over or under? Over. He's the 1A.
Starter? He's the 1A. I think he's earned the opportunity to prove that he can be the 1A. That he can be the 1A. But again, you need both your goalies in this season. I think they're going to play pretty darn close to a 50-50 split, as close as you can possibly get. Mm-hmm. But I think at the end of the day, he's going to be the one with those extra 3 or 4 games. So I'm going to say over for him and under for Holtby.
So this is my little thing. Because I picked over on Michael Di Pietro, I'm going to say both are under their projected games played. And that's going to be... so I'm thinking...
Why would you do this?
I'm Team Chaos. I'm Team Chaos, and everything's going wrong.
That's awful. How dare you? How dare you bring ill on my goalies? How dare you?
Fuck. All right, so now we're going to go into the division standings. So at the end of the year,
here we go.
1st to 7th, who do you think is going to be first?
Okay, let's
first
do this.
in the North. Who do you think?
Oh, okay. Okay, we're going from top to bottom.
We'll go top to bottom.
Okay. Okay. And I have my reasons for why I'm picking this. I have a very specific.
No, you're not allowed reasons. You just have to read them all out, and then people can shit on you after.
Okay.
First, the number one is Ottawa.
Number 1 yes, Matt Murray is just going to go off, and Tim Stutzla is just going to light it up with Brady Tkachuk. 100 points for Eric Branson. First place is Toronto. It's pretty obvious. They're the best team in this division by a comfortable margin. Their defense has questions. I have concerns a little. Actually, I shouldn't even say that. I don't have concerns with their goaltending situation anymore because Freddie Anderson is not going to need to play as many games because Jack Campbell looks like he's going to be pretty good. Is pretty darn good as a backup. I think they're very clearly the number one team. And if anything is going to undo them, it is the Leafs themselves. The only people who stand in the way of the Maple Leafs is the Maple Leafs. Because that's the kind of team they are.
Pretty much. Second place, who you picking?
Second place, this one it got tough right here in the middle.
Yes, the middle chunk is going to be where there's fluctuations for sure.
I'm going to say, I believe probably it's, oh God, I don't even know. I guess I got to go with Calgary.
Okay.
I feel like they are, I've been somebody who has, for a long time, has been harping on, I feel like the Flames are one of the more overrated teams in the league. Specifically, but surrounding us, like the Johnny Gaudreaus and Sean Monahans and stuff.
Yep.
I feel like, but they've made some good changes. Specifically, they finally actually have some comfortably consistent goaltending with Markstrom if he's healthy. I'm a big, obviously well-known Jacob Markstrom supporter here. I believe in him. I do not believe this
Right.
thought that he's going to completely regress now that he's not with Ian Clark. I don't buy that for a second. I think he will do fine if he's healthy. I think the Flames are probably going to finish second, and a lot of that's going to be due to him and the guys like Matthew Tkachuk stepping up and playing a bit of a bigger role.
Okay. So I picked Montreal.
Ooh, okay.
I think with Jake Allen and in their backup, I think it's a bit more stability. It's not the best stability, but it's still way better than, whoever they had before. And yeah, I don't like the contracts they signed some of their offseason guys to, but like you pick up Toffoli on that ticket, like that's massive. I really dig Suzuki. I think he's really great to watch. But yeah, so I'm picking them second, and then I'm going to pick third is going to be Calgary, actually, for the exact same reasons you said. So who are you picking third?
So for third, I had Montreal.
Yeah.
Because they're sort of they're a pretty complete team for the most part. But the reason they're not second on my list is because I don't buy a whole lot of the hype around them. Like people are really hammering home this idea that these are like cup favorites now, and there is like Nick Suzuki is going to be good. Kotkaniemi looks like he could be something. They have good pieces like Drouin and I love Toffoli. And Josh Anderson now as well, Brendan Gallagher, what have you. But there isn't one player that I look at like, this is a game changer, besides Carey Price, who obviously has health concerns, and goaltending can't put pucks in the net. So I feel like they did some interesting things in the playoffs, but I do not buy this sudden that they are a cup favorite. Give them a few years, yes.
So who's your third team then?
No, Montreal is my third team.
It is? Okay,
because they're pretty complete. Because they're a complete team. They just don't have.
You're saying why they're not second.
They don't have that magic ingredient that would put them into this is a contender now yet. They don't have it yet.
All right, so who's your fourth then? I've picked Vancouver as my fourth.
As have I. So why have you picked the Canucks?
No reason.
No reason at all. I picked the Canucks for two reasons. One, they're
improved in a lot of areas. Their defense is way. I don't know. It's not way better, but I think it's a touch better. Yeah. It's a touch better, and I think with the younger guys, I think that might step in. I think it could possibly get a little bit better from that as well. Not a lot. Yeah. There's this whole idea that again, without Markstrom, the Canucks are sunk in net, which I think is bull. No, I think the Canucks frankly the Canucks have the best 1-2 punch goaltending wise in this division. They definitely have the best depth.
They don't have the number one goalie. They don't have the number one guy, but they have the
It averages out.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. People are going to be surprised by Demko and Holtby and what they can do this year.
Yeah.
And the forwards are a bit of a question, just depth-wise. They're definitely a lot worse off depth right now than they were before. But it could get better. Over the season, it could get better. And my second reason is because Team Chaos, the Canucks are going to win the last wild card in the division and knock the Leafs out of the first round of the playoffs.
Because
that is exactly how the world is going to work. The Canucks are going to set the world ablaze by knocking the Leafs out of the first round of the playoffs, because the Leafs, again, are their own worst enemy, and Canucks love... apparently, this Canucks group likes to defy the odds of beating teams they shouldn't.
They love it.
They're going to do it. They absolutely. Okay. Absolutely.
Right. So then your 5, 6, 7 punch would probably be, I'm assuming, Ottawa at the very bottom.
Ottawa at the very bottom, obviously. Matt Murray is a nice improvement in net, but I also think he's a little bit overrated just because of the Penguins teams he played on. Just like, he's good, but I think what we saw in the last couple of years from him is kind of closer to what you should expect. Definitely. From him, he is not going to turn your team around in one go. Tim Stutzla is going to be great. Brady Tkachuk's going to be great.
He'll be super fun.
They have a fantastic future lined up for them, provided that a certain owner does not screw it up for them. I think they're going to be good down the line. This year, no, they are very clearly dead last. They're going to have it's going to be a long year for them.
All right. So then you have left over is Edmonton and Winnipeg.
Again,
where are you slotting them in 5th and 6th? Because I'll tell you, I'm going Winnipeg in 6th, because as great as Hellebuyck is, I just have a feeling that their team right now, that where everything that can go wrong keeps going wrong for them. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think
Laine stuff, all the injuries literally in game 1 against Calgary in the qualifiers.
Roslovic trade, like, he's not a game breaker for them by any stretch, but just like you can see all these compounding issues that are gonna keep stacking up. They don't have a third.
Yikes.
Yeah, like they lost Biza, who isn't really a great defender, but like for them he was a decent option, and now they don't have it.
They have in the span of a couple of years, they lost Trouba, they lost Bufflin. Mm-hmm. I think they lost. Do they still have Kulikov? I don't remember. Kulikov.
I'm pretty sure he's gone too.
It's crazy how great their defense was at one point. Was at like 2 years ago.
It was a strong suit. To now it's nothing. Like Neil Pionk's their number one with Josh Morrissey, who isn't nearly as great. Okay. He's not nearly as good as like Winnipeg media would have you think, right?
Their forward core is fantastic. But here's the thing. I'm actually going to go the opposite. So why is Edmonton Edmonton? Do you have reasons for why they're ahead of Winnipeg? I guess
they're ahead of Winnipeg because I think McDavid and Draisaitl give you so much more than say Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele and Blake Wheeler give you. Just based on that alone. Their goaltending is like a total crapshoot, but I think Winnipeg is just it's a tire fire that no one can really see the smoke of it yet. It's there, but it's not. It hasn't reached the skies quite yet.
So here's the thing: I have it flipped. Okay. I have Winnipeg in 5th. I really just about any one of these teams could flip between 2nd and 6th, and that's been talked to death about as how you could pretty much. Outside of Toronto and Ottawa, where they're sitting, you could pretty much mix and match, and you could make good cases for why they're in all of those positions. The Canucks could very easily finish 2nd if you wanted.
Oh yeah, frankly. That's the thing.
Or maybe even 1st. Who knows? But 2nd is pretty clear. They could.
Yeah, that's the note with our rankings is I bet every single person picking this division is going Toronto's your number 1, Ottawa's your last team. Everyone in the middle is completely interchangeable. It is completely up in the air.
It's darts. You're throwing darts here. Yeah. But I will say this: I think Winnipeg has one of these teams on paper, not necessarily the best, but I think they play a style and they're kind of built as a team that can really mess things up for particularly the smaller, younger teams. They're skilled and they're built kind of big. And they're quick too. They're kind of one of those weird good mixtures of, at least in the forward groups, of everything. And Connor Hellebuyck is the best goaltender in the league right now, I think. Yeah. He's up there. I think he's ahead of he's the best in this division for sure. Yeah. And I think the amount of games that Connor Hellebuyck could win for the Jets is going to become painfully clear when it comes to how many games that Mikko Koskinen and Mike Smith could cost the Oilers.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think McDavid and Draisaitl cannot be stopping pucks, and I think that's
That was evident,
the problem.
very clear against Chicago in the playoff series, right? Like,
yeah,
didn't matter if you scored 7, they got scored on 8 times.
their lack of goaltending is, I think, very clearly why they're gonna get a little bit shot in the foot here.
Yeah. Okay, let's get to the quick bonus questions because we're pushing almost 3 hours or some shit here.
Well, something like that. Let's. But hey, we're having fun. We're having fun here.
Let's so bonus questions. The first one. This one's kind of a shitty question. I almost don't want to include it.
Oh, I just saw it.
Yeah.
Why?
So, across the NHL, how many games do you think get canceled?
0.
Hell yeah.
0 games. 0 get canceled outright. That would be. They're good. I mean, some might get moved. I hope not. I mean, some already have been moved, but canceled, none. They're gonna finish the year again. I think they get into the meat of the year. No one's going to be getting... The chances of people getting sick are going to be a lot less. I think they'll be fine.
I'm going to guess 15. Actually, no. Yeah, 15.
All for one team or for kind of a
across the entire league. So it's going to be like every team gets 1 or something.
Now, when you say canceled, do you mean postponed? You mean postponed, right? Like pushed.
No, I mean canceled.
Really? Because I don't really know how...
I think if we go postponements, I think we're going to see a lot of postponements. Personally.
I just think if you're looking at 15 games getting canceled, especially across the league, that's almost like 1 game for certain for team, and I don't know why they wouldn't play the 1 game to win for the points completely would completely mess up points and make it winning percentage, and they'd have to change everything in the middle of the game. You suck.
I would
get
like
out
to
of here.
I would like to introduce you to the league that they play in called the NHL, who also made last year's playoffs based on points percentage or win percentage.
That was because they had to. They had no choice.
And they might have to again. That's the thing.
There are vaccines going now. Vaccines are coming out now.
When you get to my age, when everything goes wrong all the time, you'll get it. Why you pick 15 games. But anyway, let's get to funner.
And the NHL, you know what? The NHL has earned my confidence in the way they can handle COVID from the playoffs. They've earned it. They've earned the chance to break my heart a little bit.
They lost it for me when they tried to buy vaccines from frontline workers. So fuck the NHL. Go to hell. So anyway, next bonus question. Does Niels Hoglander score a Michigan goal this year?
Sure. Let's go for it. I think Petey might too.
I'm in the same boat. I have a feeling because he's on the team, you're going to have 9 players trying it all at the same time. So I'm hoping. But anyway, so next one.
Jay Beagle, overtime winner.
Loui Eriksson in his first game up from the taxi squad.
Like Carey Price or something. It'll be hilarious.
Okay, it's the next one. Do the Canucks give up their first round pick in 2021 this year?
So there was a bit of a report today that Darren Drager I put out there that they're all in this year. That there's sending out the vibes that the Canucks are all in this year. I
have no idea how that's even possible because they're against the cap. Even with all their...
And why would you do that in a year where you're going to have 0 fans almost? There's almost kind of a...
it does make sense.
You should just see what happens this year. Because I'm also kind of that boat of imagine if the Canucks won their very first Stanley Cup in the year where nobody can see it.
That's my dream. That would be my
Vancouver
dream.
Canucks, frankly.
That'd be my dream just because the Aquilinis get nothing out of it, and that would just be so funny. So they'd be gritting through their teeth we did it.
I do want, but at what cost?
But I didn't make any money.
Yeah, but I want to believe that the Canucks. I want the Canucks as a business to do well, because if they didn't, that means bad things for everybody. Yeah. So I'm gonna say. No, they don't give up I'm going to say no. I think this year is too much of a crapshoot to risk giving up your first rounder. I really hope they don't. I'm going to say no. I don't know where you go with it, frankly.
Yeah. I'm a no as well. Okay. So then that gets us to our last and final question. Do the Canucks re-sign Travis Green before the end of the season? I'm going to say yes, frankly.
Okay.
I think he's gonna at some point. This team is they're gonna be buzzing. They might be like in a playoff spot, and it'll be like let's do it now before he elevates his contract. He adds another 0 to his contract with another stellar playoff performance. So they sign on the dotted line before it's too late. So I'm going yes.
See, so I'm going to say no for the same reason. For the same reason, because I think as soon as they get to that point, Travis Green's going to say, well, why the hell would I negotiate with you now? I have all the cards right now. Why on earth would I make a deal here? I'm going to say he will re-sign. I do think the Canucks, but
not at the season end. It might be after.
It'll be after the season's over. He will re-sign. I think the Canucks would be very stupid to let him go. I'm going to say yes, they re-sign him.
Well, I'm a big fan of stupid. I love stupidity.
Is that why you joined a show with me? Is that why you joined a show with me?
That's exactly why. I needed
to right here. You got to get an I'm with stupid shirt.
It happened like 7 hours ago, but do you remember when I said 56 divided by 8 was 20%? So that's just the way things go on the CreaseCast. So, anyways, folks, this has been an absolute ride. This is fun. This is the show. We're really hyped to share our prediction sheet with you guys, and you guys can play along. This is like a lot of fun.
Quick, does Vasily Budkolzin play for the Canucks this year? Does he play one game?
Oh yeah, there's an extra one. I think he doesn't, because I think his contract's up April 30th, and he'd have to quarantine flying here from Russia. So the timing would work in a way where he wouldn't be able to get in a game. I'm pretty sure the math works out that way.
I'm going to say he does, because he might be there. He might possibly be available for playoffs, but number 2, there's also Chris Faber's been reporting about the kind of issues that have been going on, because the KHL and Russian hockey is just full of very stupid politics, even to a point where the NHL would even look at it like, well, that's just ridiculous. Why would you do this? Like, that's completely counterproductive.
The aggressive attempts at forcing him to sign a contract is just the dumbest thing. Like,
yes,
fix your internal infrastructure so that junior players actually have a reason to want to stick around in Russian leagues. Like,
yes, yeah, exactly. I think he'll be here possibly even. I think it's possible that he's here sooner than April 30th. So I'm going to say, I think he'll say he will play a regular season game.
Well, folks, that was a blast.
Yes.
I hope you liked our mix of positivity and negativity,
nihilism.
That complete nihilism and cynicism from the two of us. Just a little quick shout out to Willie O'Ree getting his number 22 retired by the Bruins.
Yes, very well deserved.
Rad of the Bruins to actually do something that doesn't suck.
If we weren't doing so much Canucks stuff, I'm sure we would have spent a lot of time talking about Willie O'Ree today. But there was just too much other things going on today that we just couldn't. So it made sense that we just had to say, just to raise a glass to Willie O'Ree, who long deserved this. And it's so great to see him getting his jersey retired by the Bruins. Much deserved.
Yeah, hell yeah. So yeah, you can follow me at Cody Sievertson on Twitter, and my site, thecommonsharvest.com. Lachlan, where can they find you?
You can find me on at Lach and the Crease on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, as well as lachandthecrease.com. I just put out a fun little North Division power rankings. We're just going to kind of make some jokes and have some fun with it. It's completely unrelated to any sort of actual analysis. It's just fun.
It's great. Simple read. I loved it. It was really funny.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, man. Don't forget, you can subscribe to our Patreon. We have a $1 tier for those that just want to support the content. We appreciate you guys for supporting us during these tough times during COVID. There's also the $5 tier that gives you access to more exclusive articles and exclusive recordings that we're going to start doing as the season progresses. Because if you couldn't tell by this episode, there is a lot to talk about in short periods of time.
Yes.
We're looking forward to coming up with some more unique ideas, and we will see you guys. Sorry.
Make sure if you listen on Apple Podcasts, leave a review. And give us those 5 stars, because it really, really helps.
Yes, Mom and Dad, leave us the 5-star. Leave us the 5-star reviews. We need them. We're desperate for them. They will kick us off if you don't give it to us.
Please.
Much love. Everyone, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll catch you guys on next Tuesday after the Canucks have played 3 games.
2 games.
Or sorry, wait, what day is today? It's Tuesday.
Tuesday, Friday. We're back Friday. 2 games.
We'll see you Friday after they played 2 games. Hell yeah.
Hockey's back. Let's go.
Sally boys. Bye.